like to supersize those French fries? Or you've just booked a flight, you want an aisle seat? Or you want to protect that new car? How about some undercoating? Or if you're renting a car, do you want the coverage so you're not responsible, right? No matter what you're buying, just when you think you've completed the purchase, there's an upsell option for just a little more. Is it worth the money? When you call any swank restaurant, especially in New York, you will always get a reservation if you say it's Alex Rodriguez calling. Here's the other one. He's Director of Creative Strategy for YMMY Marketing in Tampa, pronounced Yummy, and his clients include major brands. He's a popular speaker, and Alex is the author of Sell Before You Sell, Boost Your Brand, Close More Sales, and Win Your Game. And he hosts the Digital Marketing Minute podcast you can find on iTunes. Alex, do your friends actually call you A-Rod?
All the time. I can't, there's no scarcity of that joke.
Your work, obviously, is to help clients pump up profits. So, admittedly, we're asking the Wizard of Oz to let us peek behind the curtain. But fundamentally, it's lots easier to make more money from existing customers than to acquire new customers. So what are some of the biggest mistakes sellers make that leave money on the table?
In terms of the biggest mistakes, I think there are a wide range, and we can touch on a few of them here. One of them has to be not being upfront and transparent with regard to what is being presented. What leads to a lot of pressure from salespeople and people in the organization to convert existing customers into higher ticket items may turn, and often do turn, into a lot of frustrations and even legal complications down the line, because the people within the organization are only thinking and only acting upon the quick buck, as we say colloquially. So the quick buck, and then at the end of the day, there's a lot of customer dissatisfaction, and then, like I said, legal issues.
Sure. Hey, we tend to think of upselling as an add-on, a transaction after a transaction, but your book makes the point that as customers, we're actually sold before we purchase. Explain.
Yeah, when you purchase a product or a service, there are actually two transactions in play. The transaction we all think about is the second transaction, which is where we exchange money for those products or services. But the first transaction is the transaction of expectation, the transaction of attention, where we place our attention expecting some kind of experience in exchange. So let's say you know about a certain accountant in your area, you hear about them, but you have an expectation of their ethics, of their service quality. You have these expectations in advance, and that is one of the things that I say is the first transaction. You're placing your attention, you're paying attention to that person who already has a brand, a service provider, and then after that becomes the opportunity to offer the second transaction.
Sales resistance is an instinct, human nature, I guess. How can a seller convey, and how can a consumer identify upsells that are worth it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think I'm not of the persuasion that just upsells as a whole are a bad thing to do, because naturally, as consumers, when we are approached by service or product providers, we want to make sure that we're making the best purchase decision possible. And oftentimes what happens is that we have a broad expectation of what we will receive in exchange, and therefore it's that sales professional's job to, number one, understand what our expectation is, and number two, to present in an upfront, truthful way whether there are other products or other services that should go along with my initial purchase so that that expectation is met. If the sales professional fails to present those, then I'm going to walk away with a less than ideal purchase than I originally thought about. So I think that part of the deal is to present, to understand that consumer's expectation, and then present them with the idea of, well, what you came to purchase and what I'm presenting you now doesn't fulfill that, so would you consider X, Y, and Z along with that? From a consumer's end, I think it is all about really, again, understanding what the consumer expects from that transaction. So if I walk into a car rental facility and I expect certain things out of that purchase, then I know that if the sales professional is trying to push things that are outside of the realm of my expectation, then they're just trying to make a quick buck on me just because they have me captive.
Sure.
So going into the transaction with an understanding, I think, is really important.
Hey, I recently went online to reorder envelopes with my return address. And before they let me check out, not only did they offer me more envelope for less per, but they offered me the same imprint on labels, coffee mugs, T-shirts, you name it. And at the bottom of each one of these pages, I could go to checkout, but there was page after page of offers. Now, you are in the digital domain. How does Upsell do in e-commerce?
Yeah, it's very good. I mean, it's one of those things that are essential for e-commerce experiences. I think where people have that saturation in their experiences when you go ahead and check out, and then there's page after page, as you described, page after page, and you're like, I just want to check out. So I think that's where in e-commerce we need to be very, very careful with, number one, presenting a reasonable number of those upsell opportunities, but number two, that every upsell opportunity is relevant to my original purchase.
Right.
If all of a sudden I'm being presented with things that are irrelevant, then I just feel, I walk away feeling like it's not really a rewarding experience, nor is it relevant to my original intention to purchase.
Because the abandoned shopping cart is a special place in hell, correct?
Yeah, the abandoned shopping cart. And in e-commerce, we are getting more and more sophisticated on treating those abandonment rates.
Thank you, Alex Rodriguez from YMMY Yummy Marketing in Tampa.